Hello and welcome to a new chapter of Demon Soul. Last week Sahel went through his hair power without too much trouble and safely, so this week, well, he should get more powers. I wonder what they are going to be. So, let's see. Demon Soul, Chapter 6. Gideon arrived few minutes later with a baby bottle full of milk, and Ayokunle, who seemed to have been crying for a while in his arms. "What happened?" Brownie asked. "I got scolded by Isa," Ayokunle answered, flying at her. "And why?" Brownie said. "Because I said I wanted to be a fish, to go swim deep into the sea, and play with the mermaid, like the boy in the cartoon," Ayokunle answered. "That's because he doesn't want you to get sick again," Gideon said. "I know, but why the other can say things and not me? That's unfair," Ayokunle said. Ayokunle was a cursed baby. Every time he wished for something, his dream would come true, and he would have to go through a lot of pain to get it. It had already happened with his wings, and had reminded Sahel of the traumatic experience he had to go through himself while his own wings were growing. He had flown the house every morning, unable to bear the cries of the little boy, and his healing power had been useless on the cursed wings. "It's okay now, Ayo," Brownie said, brushing his hair and smiling. "If you get sick again, you'll just have to hide here with Sahel." "Is he still really sick?" Ayokunle asked, taking Sahel's hand compassionately. "Tick, tick," Sahel repeated. "I think he's much better. We will probably move to my room soon," Brownie said, giving Sahel his bottle. "So I can come and play with him every day?" Ayokunle asked. "If you want," Brownie said. Ayokunle let go of Sahel's hand slowly, a bit uneasily. "Luna said that he's a nasty demon and that he burned the fairy." Brownie sighed and kissed Sahel's forehead. "He has done nothing like that. Do you want to know what happened?" she finally said. Ayokunle nodded, and Brownie took him on her lap near Sahel, and started to tell him how Sahel was born here, and how the dark shadow was hiding in the corner waiting, and how the fairy came spying on the keyhole of the big wood door leading to the fairy tree in the garden, and how the dark shadow had slid under the door and attacked them. Ayokunle was saying "Oh" and "Ha" and hiding his face in his hand at the mention of the dark shadow. "Where is it now?" he finally asked. "Gideon caught it and locked it in a box," Brownie said. "Really?" Ayokunle answered, and had it for Gideon. "You were not scared?" Gideon scratched his head. He never really thought about that before. "Not really. You know, Sahel's dark shadow is just like Sahel, just with black hair, black eyes, green skin, and no feet. Not scary at all." "How does he walk without feet?" Ayokunle asked. "He slides on you like a shadow," Brownie said with a big voice, passing her hand on his back and making him and Sahel giggle at the same time. Ayokunle looked at Sahel and took his hand. "You want to play?" he asked. "Play, play," Sahel repeated, clapping. Brownie put them both down and had it caution around Sahel. "Be careful, Ayo, he's still little." "I know," Ayokunle said proudly. "I'm the older brother now." There were many little boys in the family, but for the first time Ayo could play with a very little one and have him all for himself. "Brownie, Brownie," Sahel moaned as she was going back to the table to finish her breakfast. "I'm here, sweetie." "I'm looking at you. Just play with Ayo." Sahel frowned, looking at Ayo, who seemed to be waiting for something. "Ayo," Sahel yelled. Ayokunle was caught by surprise and fell back, making Sahel laugh. He took Ayokunle's wings in his hand, but Ayo made it disappear. It was his turn to surprise Sahel. "These two are going to be great friends," Gideon said. "I'm meeting a friend who can surely help about the shadow." "From the magic school?" Brownie asked. "Yes, he's collecting things that you don't want to know about," Gideon said quickly. "Make sure he doesn't collect the shadow," Brownie said. "Don't worry about that, he'll be fine," Gideon said, leaving. "Hopefully I will have good news when I come back." Ayokunle stayed to play with Sahel for the afternoon, making time for Brownie to relax. As long as she was telling him every few minutes that she wasn't going far away, Sahel was happier than ever. He tried to give a little tornado to Ayokunle, but his tornado were able to live only in his hands, which made them laugh a lot. In the evening, Brownie was reading them a very exciting story when Mum arrived, with a hot plate of spaghetti. Gideon was staying overnight at his friend's house, so he had phoned her to tell her to bring some food to Brownie's hiding place. As the boys had finished preparing Brownie's room, she helped her move back to the house. The first word welcoming Sahel to the house were not very encouraging. "I don't want him here," Luna said, scaring the little demon who hid in Brownie's neck. "Luna, stop it," Mum said, opening the door of Brownie's bedroom. The worms came out suddenly. "But he is nasty. He hurt the fairies, and I know he will do it again," Luna continued. "Luna, to your room," Mum said. Luna stood taken aback for a few seconds as she was opening her mouth again. "Now," Mum said. Luna turned around and left. There was only Mum to be able to do that without ever needing to raise her voice. She made sure that everything was all right for Brownie and Sahel, asking many times if Brownie didn't want her to take care of Sahel, but in front of a Brownie more determined than ever, she just ended up giving some advice before leaving. "How do you like your new room?" Brownie said. "See, they haven't prepared new pajamas for you." She changed him to his new outfit. It was deep green, with a hood, and looked like a frog head. "Look at my little frog," Brownie said, bringing him in front of her mirror. Sahel tried to catch himself, but he only found cold glass and frowned. He turned back to look at Brownie. "See, I'm here too," she said, showing him a reflection in the mirror. "Brownie," he said, frowning, more wondering what was going on. "I need to take a shower, so we're going to the bathroom, and I want you to be nice, okay? I won't be too long and I won't be far." Sahel shook his head from side to side. She gave him a teddy bear and put him comfortably in the corner of the bathroom where she could have a look at him any minute. As she took her shower, he was turning the teddy around in his hand and calling for her. She went out faster than she wanted to. "You see," she said, picking him up after dressing up for the night. "I wasn't too long. You are going to need to be patient." "Patient," Sahel repeated. "Yes, yes, patient," Brownie said. "Burk," Sahel answered, with his little face looking so disgusted that it made Brownie burst into laughter. As she started to hold him tighter, she saw the bright purple light in his laughing eyes for a second, and a shiver traveled along her spine. It was the same feeling she had each time that she'd seen you so. Ethan and Raphael had prepared a bed for Sahel, but Brownie had to wait until he fell asleep to be able to leave him in. When she had first put him in under the blanket and turned the light off, he had been moaning plaintively, and she had found him few minutes later sitting in bed, looking fixedly at an imaginary point with his wings completely dark green wrapped around him. It took her a few minutes of cuddling and cradling to comfort him and make him look at her again. Then she realized that Sahel had never been in the dark since his birth. The last minute should have been agonizing and extremely frightening for him. She started to look for her all-night light, which was hiding in one of her desk drawers. She plunged it at the top of his bed, unplugging and plugging it a few times. Making the giraffe's head drown on the top of it appear and disappear was enough to bring him finally back in his own happy self. Brownie put him in the bed very carefully and covered him with a white and soft blanket before going herself to sleep. After the last few nights of sleeping in the secret room's armchair, she wasn't unhappy to find her bed back and to be able to lie down. She was awoken in the middle of the night by a strong burning smell. After a few seconds, she sat in her bed with a startle and switched on the light. She didn't need to get used to it to understand that it was happening. Sahel was covered in sweat, with a high fever, and the blanket around him had started to melt. She took him carefully, got rid of his clothes, and took him to the bathroom. His little face was torn with the fever, and the rays of red color were flashing on his brown wings. Brownie looked, feverish, for the forehead band thermometer in the bathroom drawer. As it reached 42 degrees Celsius, she knew she had to hurry and started to prepare the bath. "It's gonna be fine, baby, I'm here, it's almost over," she said, rocking Sahel tenderly as the bath was getting full. She couldn't help thinking about the picture of Burn Baby who had scared her so much in the book. When getting their power over fire, baby demons were subject to a very high fever, which could lead to self-spontaneous combustion. The picture of carbonized little body had taken her breath away. She wiped a tear and put Sahel carefully into the bath. "Not tonight," she whispered. "No baby of mine is going to burn himself tonight. No way." She sprayed Sahel's face with the water. He was starting to relax, the water making him cool down. He opened his eyes slowly, his wings now fully red with the fever, and looked at Brownie, panicking a bit from her waking in the water and splashing her all over, but she didn't care about the water. All that mattered at that moment was to make the fever go away. Holding Sahel, who was desperately trying to cling at her, was starting to stiff her arm. She finally gave up and joined him, all dressed in the water. She spent the night testing Sahel's temperature and according the bath water's temperature to it. Ethan knocked at the door the next morning and entered without waiting for the answer. He first saw the burned blanket on the fitted carpet, and knew that something had happened. "We are here!" Brownie's wig was said, coming from the bathroom, on the opposite side of the room. Ethan couldn't help laughing when he saw her in the bathtub in pajamas. "That's not funny," she said, herself half laughing, tears of tiredness falling on her wet cheek. "What happened?" Ethan asked. "His fire powers decided to manifest in the middle of the night, and I spent the last part of it trying to make his fever go down," Brownie answered, yawning. Sahel was looking passably happy, lying on Brownie's chest, clapping at the water. "Can you turn down the temperature of the room by about 4 degrees?" she said. "He still has a bit of fever, but I would like to get out of here. My back is really killing me." Ethan laughed again and turned the heating down. He took Sahel, who didn't really like it, but was too weak to complain, back to the bedroom, the time for Brownie to change, and slightly wring her pyjama in the sink. "Maybe I could come for breakfast today," Brownie said, walking out of the bathroom. "I was just coming to ask you if you wanted some waffle, because May is making some, and how warm the baby bottle should be," Ethan said. "As Gideon is not back, you need someone else to take care of that, and as you didn't ask, I thought I would do it." "That's nice," Brownie said, putting her slipper on, "but I'll take care of it myself today. A bit of fresh air won't hurt him at all. At the contrary." She took Sahel back and put it in his pajamas again, but without hood this time. "He looked like a little frog," Ethan said. "Yes, a very tired little frog, who is going to get a nice baby bottle, full of milk, and going fast back to sleep," Brownie said. But as they reached the kitchen, Sahel was already fast asleep in her arm. She sat at the table and May prepared a waffle with sugar. "You look like a zombie," Itomi said, entering the room. "Thanks a lot," Brownie answered. Itomi came closer to look at Sahel. "So that's the little terror. He's so cute." Brownie smiled. "Yes, he is, especially when he is sleeping after keeping me awake all night." She put the thermometer band on Sahel's forehead again. It was now down to 40 degrees. "Is he really sick?" Itomi asked, looking at the temperature too. "His power over fire started to manifest last night, so he has a high fever. That I need to cool down, but the biggest part of the crisis is over. For the moment, at least," Brownie answered. "Wow," Itomi said. "So that's what happened with the fairies." And Brownie had to explain all over again the fairy story. but she didn't put as much voice effect as with Hayo the previous day. "So what was the Luna all about?" Itomi asked at the end of the Brownie story. "Well, I kind of had a very bad reaction, so either she's taking revenge and making little Sahel be the bad guy in the story, or she didn't want to accept that her precious fairy had made a mistake," Brownie answered. Itomi noticed the stone around Brownie's neck. She too was wearing the green and white fluorite around her neck. "I didn't know you had one too," she said, pointing at the stone. "It doesn't come from the same place," Brownie answered. "Were there wings already on it, or did you ask Gideon?" Itomi said, looking at the pendant more closely. "I asked Gideon to do something with it, as he was working on yours and grenadines," Brownie said. "And he made those, probably because of Sahel." "Probably because everybody knows you like demons," Itomi said, sitting at the table and starting to prepare herself some waffle with jam. Brownie sighed. She didn't like demons, as in demons in general. Just two of them. You and Sahel. But no, it was only Sahel left. And he was taking a huge place in her heart and life, and she couldn't leave him alone for a minute. She was wondering when she would feel ready to go out like normal girls of her age and have a boyfriend again. Probably not before a long, long time. Suddenly the image of the older Sahel came to her mind, and she smiled, but she pushed it away very quickly and looked at the little Sahel asleep with burning fever in her arms. "I think I don't have time to worry about a love story right now," she thought to herself, "especially with some fantasy guy from a dream." Sahel's health was the more important thing for the moment. She finished her waffle, put the plate in the dishwasher, and took one of the baby bottle warmer and a pocket of ice with her back to her bedroom. The fire in the secret room had been more convenient for that, but at least the temperature in her bedroom could be adjusted more easily. She locked the door carefully behind them. She didn't want any undesirable person to enter the room and annoy Sahel more than necessary, and at this time of the day everything could happen. She was wondering when Sahel was going to wake up. It wasn't really like him to miss a meal. Even at the worst point of getting his power over her, he had still been eating. The fever had reduced by far, but his temperature was still too high. Brownie laid him down on the bed carefully. He moaned a little and huddled up on his side. She took a face cloth and put some ice inside of it, and was already starting to melt. She applied it on Sahel's forehead. Being a baby demon is really not simple, she thought. Every time he starts getting better, something is waiting behind the corner. She lay down near him, hoping to get a bit of sleep for herself, while making sure that the fever wasn't going to increase again. Wondering what Gideon was dealing with the dark shadow, she fell asleep. She was awoken a few hours later by a big knock on the door. Sahel's fever seemed to have increased a bit, but he was awake and snuggling into her with dog wings. The face clothes had left a spot of wet water on his pillow. She got up hungry, took Sahel tenderly in her arm, and opened the door briskly. "What?" she asked, in a tone that would have made anybody normal run away, but Yubi was standing at the door, all happy. "I want to see the new baby! I want to see the new baby! Show me! Show me!" he said, jumping in front of her to take a better look at Sahel. "He is sick for the moment. Come back later," Brownie said, trying to stay calm, and half closing the door to make sure he wasn't going to enter. "But Hayo played with him. I want to play with him too. Let me play, Yubi insisted. "You will play as much as you want later, but for the moment, yelling like that, you're scaring him," Brownie answered. Sahel moaned a little. Brownie could feel his fever on her cheek. She had to get rid of Yubi. "Can he fly? He has nasty wings like Luna said. Why doesn't he want to play with me?" he continued. Brownie didn't answer. She was looking for an idea when suddenly it came. "Did you know that Jaden had bought a lot of painting yesterday?" she lied. "Really?" Yubi's eye brightened. His favorite game was to steal painting from Jade's drawing room and to have Danny make them explode a bit everywhere in the house. That's why Mum had decided that it was time for some people to get a key and lock their doors. Sure, why don't you make a welcome painting for Sahel? Brownie said. I'm sure that will make him very happy when he feels better. Okay, Hughie said, walking away and scraping up his hand, thinking about the mischief he could commit with the brand new paint. Brownie closed the door quickly and took Sahel to the bathroom. It's time for a bath again, sweetie, she said. I'm so sorry about Hughie. He's really annoying sometimes. She checked his temperature and started filling the bath tube. Sahel was clinking at her feverishly and weakly, not very reassured, as she took out his pajamas. She cuddled him until the bath was ready. He was really looking miserable in the water, and she was splashing his face and body. He seemed to be very confused as his wings were changing color every few seconds, from dark green to brown to yellow to deep red. There was no happy color today. I'm so sorry, sweetie, Brownie said, but I really need to make your fever go down, and I can't go with you in the bathroom now because that would be a serious mess. Apparently, her voice was at last calming him, which was not too bad, seeing the condition. She started to rock him slowly in the water and to sing for him. He was looking at her fixedly, clinging as much as possible at her arm. After 20 minutes, the fever had dropped down again. Brownie took him out and dressed him up. He was clinging at her frenetically, still very confused. The fever was really hurting him. She warmed up the baby bottle, but after swallowing a few drops, he pushed it away, which made her worry even more. He couldn't keep his eyes open any longer. She left him asleep a few seconds on the bed, while going to look for cold water in the bathroom. She looked at herself in the mirror. Hitomi was right. She was really looking like a zombie. She hadn't put any cream or done her hair in what seemed forever, and she had dark spots around her eyes, but curiously, she didn't care. She would have time for that later. She came back to Sahel, who was moaning slowly in his sleep, put the face cloth on his forehead, and started to wonder what he could be dreaming about. What if he could also see the dark corridor and his older self? She really thought it was strange, but thinking about that boy as the older Sahel had something reassuring. At least it meant that Sahel would go through all of his power problem unharmed, and for that little light of hope she was intensely grateful. She was also wondering about the soul she seemed to be carrying. Would it be possible that Sahel was just here to help her retrieve Yu's soul from the demon's cave? She seriously doubted it. She had seen it in Sahel's eyes, the bright purple light. In all her dream, when she was looking for the soul, they were all so different. It was it, in Sahel's now, the soul she had been so attached to. Two souls couldn't possibly have been so alike, she was sure of it. She plunged the face clothes in the cold water and cooled Sahel's face and hand, hoping for him to get better soon. Hitomi brought her lunch a few hours later. How is he? She asked. Still sleeping, still feverish, and he didn't want to eat at all. I think having Yobi waking him up suddenly didn't help. He was really petrified. Brownie answered, taking her plate. Can we have the baby bottle warmer back? I'll bring it back when I'm done, Hitomi said. Sure, Brownie said. She took it on her desk and gave it to Hitomi. Could you bring some ice with it? It's melting really fast in here. Hitomi nodded and left. Hitomi had dropped the temperature again by a few degrees, but it was still warmer than any other part of the house. She forced herself to eat, but she wasn't in the mood. Seeing Sahel's full baby bottle didn't help much. Hitomi came back half an hour later, with the ice. Thanks, Brownie said. She walked back to put it on Sahel's forehead. Hitomi followed in her room. He really looks terrible, she whispered. Yeah, you know how Mom always gets sick worried when one of us caught a little fever, Brownie answered. He had one all night and almost burned himself. She pointed at the burned blanket on the carpet. And it's not finished yet. Hitomi took the ice bag from Brownie's hand. I'll do it. You need to rest too. Brownie lay down on the bed near Sahel, holding his little hand. "I don't think I can sleep with him like that," she said. He moaned weakly and opened his eyes. Brownie stroked his hot cheek tenderly. "You're awake?" she said. He grabbed her finger. "Can you prepare the milk?" she said to Hitomi, sitting back up. "I'll try to have him eat something. Don't make it too warm, just a little bit." Hitomi nodded and walked to the desk. Brownie took the little demon in her arm carefully. He seemed a bit disorienting, and changing room probably didn't help much. Hitomi gave her the baby bottle and sat near them on the bed. Sahel started to drink very slowly, pausing frequently to take a deep breath. He was wet with cold sweat now. Brownie put the forehead thermometer on his forehead. 41, she read. "That's a lot," Hitomi said, wondering if Sahel could still be eating with such high fever. "For someone normal, that's the equivalent of 38.7, Brownie said. "That's not too bad, I guess, compared to how high it was before." Sahel was taking some more deep breaths before starting to drink again. "At least he can eat now, that's a relief," Brownie said. "And you should eat too," Hitomi said, noticing Brownie's half-full plate on the night table. Brownie smiled. "I'm fine, don't worry. Once he's back to normal, I'll finish everything." Hitomi sighed. "I better go. Yubi has been trying to make trouble with the paint again. He said you told him to." "I kinda did," Brownie admitted. "I needed to find a way to get rid of him very fast," Hitomi laughed. "I can understand that. It's always better not to have him around for too long. I'll be back later." She walked to the door and closed it behind her. Brownie looked at Sahel. "You're going to take another bath after lunch." Sahel blinked. He was ready to fall back asleep. Brownie took his pyjama off. It was wet with sweat. She cradled him as the bath tube was filling up. He was looking at the water rising with a scared look. The bath wasn't really as enjoyable as it used to be. "That won't take long," she said, putting him in the water, as he was trying to cling at her. "Just the time for your fever to go away. After, you will feel much better, I promise." But Sahel was absolutely not convinced. Playing in the water wasn't fun at all anymore, because he just wanted to sleep, and to be left alone, with a cuddle if possible. It took almost 1 hour to Brownie to finally get rid of the fever. Sahel had fallen asleep in the water once he was too exhausted to try to get out. She wrapped him in a blanket and went to look for a new pyjama. Lawan was alone in the baby's bedroom. "Are you okay?" Brownie asked, walking towards the bathroom. Lawan looked up, but didn't answer. Brownie chose a pyjama and came back to sit near the little girl while dressing up Sahel. Lawan put her hand on Brownie's leg, and a flow of images and words flew up in her head. First, Lawan was playing with Isakael in the garden, and the unicorn, Tornade, came to join them. Tornade was kind of Luna's unicorn because it was spending most of the time with her and the fairies. Then, Isakael had placed Lawan on Tornade's back for a ride, and was still holding her because riding a big white horse like that alone was a bit scary. Then, Isakael had gone away to play football with the boys, and Lawan had stayed with Tornade, who was pushing her on the seesaw. But Luna had arrived and had taken Tornade away, and she said that Tornade wasn't supposed to play seesaw because it was a unicorn, and she didn't let Lawan touch her to explain. That's why she was sad now. "I see," Brownie said. "Why are you sad now?" Lawan's voice resonated into Brownie's head. Lawan was half mermaid, and only able to speak in the water. When she wanted to say something to someone, she needed to touch them, and then her voice was resonating in their head. But in exchange, she was able to feel the deep feeling inside of the person, and sometimes was heard by them. "Because Sahel is really sick at the moment, you see," Brownie answered, finishing to put Sahel's new pajamas on. It was all red with green color, making him look like a little strawberry. Lawan took the little boy's hand and closed her eyes for a moment. Then she took Brownie's and a flow of thought came to her mind. Sahel wanted a cuddle, and no bath because it was really too cold, and the milk tasted really strange, and he wanted to sleep. Brownie held him tighter on her chest. "Thanks, Lawan," she said. "He likes you a lot, more than anything. He has for a very, very long time. Even before he was born. That's really strange." The voice of Lawan resonated in her head. Brownie started to feel uneasy, having Lawan entering their privacy. "Do you want to come to my room?" she asked, wanting to avoid thinking at Lawan's word. "I will read you both a story." Lawan jumped out of the bed and ran to get a book. "Let's go then," Brownie said. Lawan followed them in the corridor. The house was particularly quiet during this part of the afternoon. Most of the boys were out to the park to play football. The other children were probably enjoying summer in the garden. According to the smell coming from the kitchen, May was cooking something delicious. Mikala and Minho, who were practicing the piano, and Kakao, the guitar. Brownie was wondering what had happened to Yobi after she had sent him away to Jaidan. But that didn't matter much. Arrived in her bedroom, she checked Zael's temperature again. It was fortunately back to normal. She sat on the bed, rocking the exhausted little demon, and started to read Lawan's story. The sound of her voice made Sahel's wing turn slightly pink, and she had to explain to Lawan that the baby's wing colors was changing according to his mood, and that pink meant he was happy. Lawan took his hand and confirmed, shaking her head happily. The story was about a bad dragon, which was trying to burn every village around so that nobody would try to rescue the beautiful princess it had kidnapped. But of course a valiant and courageous Prince Charming was here to free her and kill the dragon. Gideon arrived late in the evening. He had spent most of the yesterday afternoon and the morning in his friend's parents' library. It was bigger than the ones they had at home, and their family had linked different libraries magically. You needed to be careful not to get locked in another part of the world if one of the family members decided to go out while you were in his part of the library and close the magic door. It was also more specific on magic creature and object. Sedana Bayar was member of a very long line of wizards. Everybody in his family had been to magic school, and some of his ancestors had explored the magic world and wrote a lot of books about it. Some of them were even to be found in the house library. When Gideon had entered the magic school as a new student in the middle of the year and shown particular talents, it didn't take long for Sedana to include him in his private circle composed mostly by himself and his twin sister Taika. Gideon was always welcome to their house, and so were they to his, and they really enjoyed coming every day after school. But during the holidays, they had been traveling to Africa with their parents. Anyway, after long research in the library, including during night time as Taika refused categorically to let them sleep until they had at least found something, they finally discovered the one and only way of sealing a wandering, demonic, dark soul. Except, of course, if you wanted to attach it to a demon, which would be a totally different matter. And the way to do that was just described in the book that Gideon was moving, wide open, under Brownie's nose. "Stop moving, I can't read," Brownie whispered. Gideon was extremely excited by his discovery. "Sorry," he said, "but I've never done anything so complicated before, and I've never done a complex ritual out of school with my friend, so that is going to be so awesome, don't you think?" Brownie didn't really know what was so awesome about a magical ritual. She had tried many unsuccessfully, and they had all been really stressful. You always had to make sure that the room was going to be quiet, that nobody was going to enter unfortunately, that you had well prepared a good quantity of everything, that nothing bad had crossed the way of the ingredient, that you were invocating the good spirit and keeping the bad one outside, and so many more annoying things of the same kind. It was for her a moment particularly stressful, especially because she needed to relax and not being stressed. Maybe, she said, not convinced. So you see, I just came here to take my stuff and I'm going back. We are going to do it tonight. I need a bit of Sahel's hair now. I'll get the dark shadow just after and I'll be off, Gideon said, approaching the scissors to Sahel's sleepy head. I'll do it, Brownie said. She didn't know why, but seeing big scissors approaching the little demon's head, even in Gideon's good-willing hands, had something frightening. She took the scissor, cut a little tuft of hair, and gave it back to Gideon. Thanks, Gideon said. I'll see you tomorrow. Take good care of him. Sure, bye, Brownie said, as if he needed to ask her to take care of Sahel, who had spent all night and days taking the fever away, and who was going to spend the rest of the night making sure that it wouldn't go higher than it already had. Brownie sighed. Sahel was her demon, after all, and no one else's. She was still hoping that Gideon and his friend would succeed. Sahel's fever increased more than ever during the night, and Brownie had to hold him in a towel to avoid burning herself. She then decided to go back at spending the night in the bathtub, like the previous one. Sahel stayed asleep on her chest all night. Apparently, as long as she was with him in the water, he didn't see any reason to complain. In a sense, that was making things fairer. Why would he need to stay here alone? The thought made Brownie smile. Sahel probably didn't have the notion of fair and unfair yet. She would have described it more like cuddle or not cuddle. She was checking his temperature every few minutes. She knew it was pretty useless, but she couldn't help herself. When it changed by a few tenths of a degree, she was either rejoicing or agonizing. She was really grateful to Ethan and Raphael for having prepared everything so well, so that she could directly ask for a particular water temperature. She had probably fallen asleep as well in the bathtub, because she was awakened the next morning by Sahel giggling and splashing water everywhere around. He was looking so lively suddenly. During the last day, she had almost forgotten how it felt to have him happy and moving around. Brownie, he said, giggling. Want milk? He splashed around, stroking his stomach. Of course, sweetie, she answered, hugging him. Let's go out of here and go for breakfast. Breakfast is good, he said. She was a bit surprised of hearing him speak so much. Let's get dry and put the pajamas on, she said, wrapping him in a warm towel. Die, Sahel said, passing his hand from which flames were going out on his arm and stomach. Slowly with that, Brownie said, a bit taken aback by so much change. Fire is dangerous. Dangerous? Sahel looked at her surprise, as she rubbed his body and hers with the towel. Dangerous. Too hot. Burn. Hoo-yoo-yoo, Brownie said, comically making him giggle. Hoo-yoo-yoo, he repeated. She checked his temperature before going for breakfast. It was back to normal. Just perfect, she said. Perfect, Sahel repeated. Yes, everything you do is just perfect, my little parrot, Brownie said, laughing. She wrapped him in a blanket to make sure the sudden change of temperature wouldn't affect him too much, but he was too lively and too excited to even notice. He was looking around and pointing at things, giggling, and repeating whatever Brownie said they were. Okay, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed. I'm really happy that Sahel finally finished. Oh my god, the fever, that was so scary. Anyway, see you next week for a new part of Demon's Soul. Bye!